Did you know that God is always at work? Allow me today to testify of a time God showed up in a big way in my life. And this was when I was looking for a job. As you rightly know, we grow in an environment full of unemployment, especially here in Africa. And most of the times when we go to school, study, we also believe God that after we finish the studies, we will get a job. And therefore, many years ago, I went to college and I did computer science and I majored on programming. And after graduation, I got a job somewhere on attachment basis in a bicycle farm. And I was data entry clerk, getting $1 a day, but I was going in the evenings. And after that, that job ended prematurely, and I had to go back to the house. And in the house, my duty was every single day to do the house chores, just what a house manager does, because we were staying with other brethren. And after doing those house chores, the next thing was just to pray. And for a period of time, I felt this is not the life. And I would remember that there is a time I prayed for the job and I could not get any headway. So I decided to fast for the job. And on my third day of fasting for this job, I felt even the blankets were not helping me, the mattresses were not helping me. I moved the mattress from the bed and I put it down on the floor. And I used to pray there now on the floor. But this one day, very early in the morning, something happened. And God spoke to me and told me, "You have been praying for a job, but did you know that a job is not in the house? The job is outside there." And this is what I want to share with every single person who pray for something. It is always good to reason what God is saying, even as you pray. Because you can pray for many years, yet God gave you that what you prayed for the very first time you prayed for it. But because of lack of wisdom, revelation, and knowledge, you continue to pray. So that I don't move out of a small story that I'm giving today, I went, I listened to this voice because God speaks to this very day. He's at work. I heard that voice very clearly telling me, "Job is not in the house." And therefore, it was my first time to move out of the house after many months of prayer. So I moved out and I walked to the nearby environment, and there was a newspaper paper vendor who used to sell newspapers allowed our press. When I ask most people, you know what they do in the mornings, because if you don't have money, you are allowed to read the paper by the vendor, provided you don't carry it. So I took one paper and I did not read the front pages because jobs are not put in the front pages. I went to the back page. And when I checked at the back page, there is a column we call classified where jobs are advertised. And I just looked at the press. I saw somebody advertising for data entry jobs, and it was in the city, and I was staying in the suburbs. So I felt that reading telling me, go, and go for this job. So I went, and I did not know the building very clearly, so somebody else had to assist me with the directions and tell me this is the place. So I reached the place and I entered the room, and the secretary who was in the room told me, "If you need this job, the first thing you have to do is you have to apply and then pay 600. Remember the person who is being told to apply and then get 600 and pay 600. Okay, applying I can apply, but the 600 was money I've never seen. So what I did is I felt that maybe this is not what I was looking for. So I left, and I did not even have fare to go back home to my suburb area. I still remember that day when I'll give you that story later. So I decided even the house I'm staying is of no help. So I decided to go for the deposit for the house so that even I can get fare to go home. And luckily, the office where we used to pay rent was in the city. So I walked to the place where we were paying rent. I went to the reception, and the office was, there were so many people in the office, so I was ushered into a waiting bay. And I was waiting. And as I was waiting there, guess what? A gentleman who used to be my friend came and met me there, but he had shifted the church from where we were worshiping to another church in another nearby estate. So we knew each other, and he had already known me very well, that I used to pray, I used to preach all these stories. So he met me there, and he also knew that I was doing computer science. He came and asked me, "Hi, Mr. Chege," greeted me, and we had good time introducing each other. "What are you doing?" Then he asked me, "By the way, did you finish college?" I told him I finished college. He asked me, "Did you get a job?" I told him I'm looking for a job, and told him, "Why don't you try in our church? There is a gentleman called this," I don't want to mention his name here because I'm not here to discuss the names of people. So there's a gentleman called by so and so. Why don't you go and see him this evening? I had him advertise for a job in the church. So by God's grace, I knew the guy because he used to come to our fellowship. So I told him I'll go and see him. Now the problem was I did not have fare to go back home. Therefore, I had to go to a stage where our suburb matatus had a terminus. I had to wait there, believing God that one person will come there and see me and pay for my fare back home. And luckily, a guy came and he greeted me and asked me, "What are you waiting for?" I told him, "I'm waiting to go home." He said, "Yes, go, I'll pay for you." That's the first thing he said. You know, when you are waiting on God, he provides ways. So we went home, and luckily I was home before this guy could come from his office, because he was leaving office around 6 p.m. So at 6 p.m., the guy comes at 6, some minutes to 7, the guy comes. He used to carry a newspaper. I greeted him. He did not even want to talk so much because he was tired, but I escorted him to his house because I knew where his house was. And on the way, I asked him, "By the way, there is a job you advertised in your company. Can I apply for it?" He asked me, "What have you done?" I told him, "I've done programming." He told me, "By the way, we needed a programmer, but it's like we got one." I told him, "How?" He told me, "We got one. There's somebody who brought papers." I told him, "Why don't I bring me your papers? You try. My papers, you try." I told him, "Well, on good, bring them tomorrow." So I brought the papers tomorrow, even if he had already told me that they had filled the position. But the position they were filling in, the guy who had brought the papers could not be able to do the job. So I did not know that, but God was still preparing me for the job. So I brought him the paperwork and the CVs and all those things that you have, and the application letter. He took to his boss. His boss looked at them and told him, "Go and tell the guy to come." Even where the company was a problem, I had to be taken by my brother now the following coming week. Now, to cut the long story short, I went for the interview. Remember, I did not do the press. I was taken by my brother. So I went to the interview. The interview time came. I entered the interview room. I was asked all the questions somebody can be asked. And I failed all those questions. And here where the miracle is. After failing all the questions, this guy, there is tea attendants, the people who serve the bosses with tea. The guy had met his boss interviewing a person, talking to a person, and therefore he came with 2 cups. He came, gave his boss a cup of tea, and he also gave me a cup of tea. Then the boss asked me, why don't you move from this table and go to the other table and take your tea there? Because he had finished with me. So I went and I sat there and I started taking my tea. But something inside me was telling me, why don't you ask this guy questions? Now there is where the miracle is. Can you imagine the interviewer became the interviewee? I started asking the manager questions. He was of Asian Asian. He was an Asian, and I asked him questions. He could answer me. I could ask him, "What do you do when you want to do this?" He could tell me. He did not know he was giving me the answer to the questions. So I asked him, "Can I do something on your computer?" Because imagine the same computer that the computer was in the other table now where I was taking tea is where initially he wanted somebody to be sitting and working from there. But he asked me theory questions, yet I could do more practical than theory. So I asked him, by the way, this program is written by what? I don't want to talk programming language here. He gave me the text. In fact, he started helping me because he knew it a bit. God performed a miracle. The first thing that happened is an error that had disturbed them for 6 months appeared on the screen. And the good thing with programming is a language. So where the error appeared, it was suggesting something had not happened. I had not done that language, we call it Creeper 5, but I had done DBase 4. And I've also done the syntax is almost the same. So I noted there was a comma that was left by the person who had written the program previously. So, no, not a comma, but a semicolon. I put the semicolon and I asked him, how do you save? He told me, do control this. I saved. Then I asked him, how do you run the program? He told me, you run it this way. I ran the program. And on the screen, for the first time in 6 months, it brought a menu where you can enter data. And that's what they were looking for. So I saw the guy stand up and lift up his hands and say, Eureka, we have found it. I did not know God had used that opportunity to give them an answer of a problem that had disturbed them for 6 months. So there we were. He told me, in fact, you do not go back home. How much would you want to be paid? Poor me. I had never worked somewhere, so I figured out my rent and my expenses and multiplied by 2 because somebody had told me if you want to go for a job, you look at how much you spend within a month and then you multiply by 2. So I asked a double salary based on my expenses. It was small money. But guess what? I was given that money without even a question. I was told you will be paid this amount, and that was it. So that's how I got a job. The reason why I'm giving this story is because so many of us pray God, but they never take time to reason what God says about their problems or their conditions. You are qualified for a miracle. But you need also to reason to God and know what is God saying about your predicament. What is God saying about that, what you have been praying for many years? Maybe after you hear what God has for you is when you can take an appropriate action and go for your miracle. Do not think that God doesn't answer prayers. God is at work to this very moment. Why don't you try God by believing him and trusting and listening and obeying his command? You will receive a miracle. By the way, after I got that job led me to so many other jobs. I did not stop working for the next 23 years. Meaning God pointed me to an opportunity. And that opportunity was there for me for 23 good years. The other time I'll come to tell you how I finished the 23 years and how I moved to another phase of life. Still miraculously. But for now, no, God is at work and He is able to open a door for you. But obey Him, listen to His guidance, and know whenever He tells you to do something, He is looking for your obedience. Once you obey, the rest is history. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you. I pray for all my brothers and sisters looking for a job or looking for a miracle in different areas of their lives. Help them through a revelation to know what they need to do so that they can do it. I thank you and bless you in Jesus' name. If this video blesses you, subscribe to my channel. Not only that, share it with your friends. God bless you. Love you. My name is Pastor JC.